I used to believe my graduation day would be the proudest moment of my life. Instead, it became the day my nephew threw my graduation gown in the trash can, while my family laughed. When I tried to complain, my mother looked at me and said, "If you can't take a simple joke, maybe you don't belong in this family. Leave if you want. And don't come back." I didn't argue. I just left. A few months later, she came looking for me, needing my help. Have you ever been humiliated by your family? Tell me in the comments, because I need to know I'm not the only one. My name is Rita Sanders. I'm 27 years old, and I just earned my nursing degree after 6 years of night classes, double shifts, and sacrifices nobody ever counted. I live in Savannah, Georgia, a quiet city where the streets stay warm long after sunset. I came home to celebrate with my family, believing that maybe, just maybe, this time they'd be proud of me. But some daughters grow up being seen, and some grow up being useful. I was always the second kind. I learned that truth around the time I was 10 and realized my mother's voice changed depending on which daughter walked into the room. When Amanda, my sister, entered, it lifted, brightened, became musical. When I entered, it flattened into something functional. Rita, set the table. Rita, help your sister. Rita, don't be difficult. I grew up accepting myself as the least favored child. On the day before my graduation, the light filtered through the kitchen window, casting soft shadows across the worn countertops. I stood at the ironing board, carefully pressing my graduation gown, running my fingers over the sleeves like they were made of something precious. My mother stood near the stove, her voice warm and bright. "That cake you made for Jason's school event was absolutely beautiful, sweetheart. You're so talented." Mrs. Ripper couldn't stop talking about it. Amanda smiled, flipping her hair as she scrolled through her phone. She was 30, confident in a way I'd never learned to be. Everything about her seemed effortless. Her laughter, her charm, the way people gravitated toward her like moths to light. When Amanda walked into a room, everything shifted. Mom's face softened instantly, and the air just felt brighter. She had this way of making everyone feel lucky to be near her. I used to stand there quietly, wondering what it would take for Mom to ever look at me the same way. Jason was her 12-year-old son. I kept ironing, my hands steady, my smile small. I wanted to say, "Mom, I'm graduating today." But the words stayed lodged in my throat. They knew I was graduating but had said nothing about it. It was clear they weren't planning to come. Amanda breezed past me, glancing at the gown with barely concealed amusement. "Don't forget to smile when you get your little paper today. You always look so serious in photos." My mother laughed. I forced a polite smile and nodded. "I won't forget," I said quietly. But even then, I could feel it, the way my achievement was treated like something small, something forgettable. A little paper. Not years of exhaustion, just little. I learned early that silence keeps the peace. But silence also buries you, inch by inch, until you can't remember what your own voice sounds like. Graduation morning arrived, and I woke before dawn, humming softly to myself. My heart felt light for the first time in months. I'd laid out my outfit the night before, even practiced my walk across the stage in my bedroom. I opened my wardrobe, reaching for the space where I'd hung the gown. The gown was gone. At first, I thought I'd moved it. My mind raced through possibilities. I checked my drawers, the laundry basket under the bed. My movements grew frantic. Clothes tumbled to the floor as I searched, my breath quickening. It wasn't there. My mother appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "Why are you making so much noise this early?" "My gown," I said, my voice trembling. "It's missing. I ironed it yesterday morning, and now it's..." She waved me off. "You probably misplaced it. You're always so disorganized, Rita." "I didn't misplace it," I said, tears stinging my eyes. "Someone took it. Please, Mom. The ceremony starts in 2 hours." She sighed. Don't be dramatic. If you can't find it, just wear something else. Her tone made me feel small, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. I stood there, speechless, staring at her. That gown meant everything to me, and she brushed it off like it was nothing. I realized then that no matter what I achieved, it would never mean anything to her. I was still in shock. I was sure I hung the gown in my wardrobe. Time was slipping away. I had no gown. No time to rent another one. So I did what I always did, I may do. I found a plain navy blue dress in my closet, something I'd worn to a funeral years ago. I pinned it carefully, smoothed the fabric with trembling hands, told myself it didn't matter. But it did matter. Standing in that auditorium, surrounded by my classmates in their pristine gowns, I felt exposed, diminished, like someone had stripped away the one symbol that said I belonged there. All through the ceremony, my mind wasn't on the stage or the applause. I kept wondering where my gown was, if it was safe somewhere or already lying crumpled in some corner of the house. I returned home that evening, my eyes still swollen from crying through the ceremony. The diploma folder felt heavy in my hands, not with pride, but with the weight of everything it had cost me. As I stepped into the living room, Jason, Amanda's 12-year-old son, came running toward me, his face lit up with excitement that caught me off guard. "Aunt Rita, I've got a surprise for you. Come see." Finally. Amanda and my mom didn't give me any graduation presents. But Jason was about to surprise me. My heart swelled with love for him. I smiled, my body anxious. Amanda and my mother sat, watching us, saying nothing. Jason took my hand and led me toward the backyard. Amanda and my mother followed us. The evening light fell softly over the yard, golden and peaceful. For a fleeting second, I felt something tender, hope, until Jason stopped beside the green trash can by the fence. He looked up at me with a grin and pulled the lid open. "Surprise," he shouted. I froze, my entire body going numb. Inside the trash can, crumpled and stained, was my graduation gown. The sleeves were tangled with discarded food wrappers and coffee grounds. A banana peel draped across the collar. The fabric was smeared with ketchup and spoiled milk. Amanda burst out laughing, her phone raised, recording everything. My mother chuckled too, shaking her head. For a second, I couldn't breathe. The laughter around me felt louder than it should have been. Jason's little voice kept echoing. "It's just a prank, Aunt Rita." But nothing about it felt funny. Watching them laugh while my gown sat in that trash can made something inside me break. My voice came out broken. "Why would you do this?" Jason looked toward his mother, uncertain. Amanda's smirk widened, her phone still recording. "Oh, come on, Rita. It's just a little prank. You take life way too seriously." I turned to her, my voice shaking. "A prank? You call this a prank? You took the one thing that mattered to me and threw it in the trash." Amanda sighed, lowering her phone slightly. "You're overreacting. It's not that serious. You've always been so sensitive." I stared at her, disbelief tightening my chest. "Sensitive? You humiliated me in front of everyone." She shrugged, a small, dismissive smile tugging at her lips. "You make everything bigger than it is. Honestly, it's exhausting." Then my mother added coldly, "If you can't take a simple joke, maybe you don't belong in this family." I died. I couldn't believe what my mom had just said. I stood there, trembling, staring at the ruined gown. My mind couldn't process how the people who were supposed to love me could find joy in my humiliation. I said nothing more. I bent down, reached into the trash can, and picked up the gown. I held it carefully, the stains smearing my hands. I walked past them into the house. Behind me, Amanda's laughter continued, blending with my mother's lighter chuckle. It wasn't the words that broke me. It was realizing they meant them. That was the moment something inside me went silent. Not broken, just done. Later that night, the house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. The laughter from earlier had faded, leaving behind an emptiness that felt almost sacred. I stood in my room, staring at the ruined gown on the floor. My reflection in the mirror was unrecognizable, eyes swollen, skin pale. I folded the gown carefully and placed it inside a plastic bag. Then I pulled out my small suitcase and began to pack. Every motion was slow, deliberate, the way someone moves when they've stopped hoping. My mother passed by the hallway. I heard her footsteps pause. Through the gap in my door, I saw her glance at me packing. Then she kept walking. She didn't even stop to ask why. I stood there, watching her leave, feeling like the ground had disappeared beneath me. The woman who gave birth to me couldn't even turn around to see what she'd done. In that moment, something in me finally went quiet. I wasn't angry anymore, just empty. I zipped the bag, took one last look at the family photos on the wall, all of Amanda and Jason. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, beach vacations. There wasn't a single photo of me. I walked out quietly, my degree folder pressed to my chest. My heart was pounding, but my steps were steady. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. I just left the way I should have years ago, quietly, like the daughter they'd forgotten to love. Months passed. I moved into a modest apartment across town, in Ardsley Park, Chatham Crescent. A small one-bedroom with wooden floors and a window overlooking maple trees. It was quiet, simple mine. For the first few weeks, the silence was deafening. But slowly, that silence became peace that I started to fill that silence with small things. Cooking for myself. Watching the sunrise before work. Going for walks with no destination. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells. I was just breathing. I started my nursing job at St. Mary's Hospital. I learned to laugh again, surrounded by patients who valued my kindness. Elderly women who squeezed my hand. Children who asked me to stay a little longer. Colleagues who remembered my coffee order. I decorated my apartment with plants, bought a bookshelf, cooked real meals. Occasionally, I checked my phone. Family messages left unread. Where are you? Don't be childish. We need to talk. I never responded. Peace was strange at first, like learning to breathe after years of holding it in. But a phone call I received almost took that peace away. One late afternoon, about 4 months after I'd left, I sat in my small living room with a cup of tea. Rain pattered against the window. I was reading when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Ms. Sanders? The voice was polite but serious. This is Gregory Parker from Heritage Federal Bank. We're calling about the extension request on your cosign loan for your mother's boutique. My entire body went cold. What loan? There was a pause. The business loan for Linda's boutique. Your name appears as a guarantor. Your mother just submitted a renewal application this morning. I never signed anything for a business loan. Your signature is on file, ma'am. From 3 years ago. The current balance is approximately $48,000. My breath caught. $48,000. I closed my eyes, and suddenly I was back there 3 years ago at my mother's kitchen table. It's just a formality, honey. We'll handle all the payments. This is what family does for each other. I'd signed without reading, desperate to belong. Ms. Sanders? Are you still there? Yes. I need you to remove my name from that loan. From every account associated with my mother. Immediately. I replied. Ma'am, your mother's boutique has been struggling, the banker continued. With your name removed as cosigner, they require full repayment immediately. Do it. I ordered. Ma'am, are you certain? This could significantly impact. I'm certain. The call ended. I set the phone down with shaking hands. I thought I'd cut every tie. But some people keep you tethered by the paperwork you never signed knowingly. Not anymore. 2 days later, my phone exploded. 35 missed calls. Messages poured in. What did you do? The bank froze our account. You're destroying us. I scrolled through them slowly. I turned my phone to silent and went about my life. The messages kept coming. I ignored them all. Their emergency was not my responsibility. Their consequences were not my burden to carry. A week later, on a Tuesday evening, I was washing dishes when the knocking started. Loud, violent pounding that shook the door frame. "Rita." Amanda's voice cut through the door. "Rita, open this door right now." My hands froze in the soapy water. More pounding. "We know you're in there." I dried my hands slowly, walked to the door. Through the peephole, I could see them, my mother and Amanda. My mother's face was tight with rage. Amanda looked like she'd been crying. I opened the door, but left the chain lock in place. Even through the small gap, I could see the panic in her eyes. She looked desperate, but I couldn't tell if it was for forgiveness or for money. For the first time, I didn't rush to comfort her. I just stood there, steady, holding my own ground. "What do you want?" My mother's eyes flashed. "What do I want? You made the bank freeze our account. The boutique is closing. We're losing everything." Amanda pushed forward, her face blotchy. "The bank is demanding $48,000 by the end of the month. You've destroyed us." "I didn't ruin anything," I said quietly. "I just stopped paying for people who laughed when my dignity hit the floor." My mother's jaw clenched. "That was just a joke, Rita. Jason is a child you taught to disrespect me," I said, my voice growing stronger. "A child who learned from watching you that my feelings don't matter." Amanda's tears came harder. "We're family, Rita. Family helps family. After everything we did for you. After everything you did for me?" All the years of silence broke open. "What exactly did you do for me, Amanda?" Because I remember working 2 jobs to pay my way through nursing school. I remember every birthday where I got a cupcake while you got a party. "That's not fair. You threw my graduation gown in the trash." My voice cracked. "You filmed it. You laughed. And Mom told me I didn't belong in this family if I couldn't take a joke." The hallway fell silent. My mother's face hardened. "We needed that loan, Rita. That's what family does. They sacrifice for each other." "I did sacrifice," I said softly. "For years.
My time.
My money. My dignity. And the one day I asked for nothing but respect, you took that too." Amanda broke into sobs. "Please, Rita. We'll lose everything. We need you." I looked at her and felt something I never expected. Pity. "No," I said simply. "You don't need me. You need someone to use. And I'm done being that person." My mother's face twisted with rage. "You'll regret this. Blood is blood, Rita." I met her eyes, and for the first time in my life, I didn't flinch. "Watch me." I closed the door gently, just a quiet click of the lock. Through the door, I could hear Amanda's muffled sobs, my mother's angry muttering, their footsteps retreating, and then silence. I stood there, waiting for the guilt to come. But it didn't come. Instead, there was just stillness. Weeks passed. I heard through old neighbors that the boutique had closed, that the for sale sign had gone up. One afternoon, I took a detour past the old neighborhood. The boutique was dark, windows empty. I saw my mother on the sidewalk, arguing with a man in a suit. Her face looked drawn, older. For a split second, I felt that old pull, the instinct to help, to fix. Then the light changed, and I drove on. Some lessons don't need revenge, just distance. 6 months after I'd closed that door, I stood in the hospital's training room, facing new nursing recruits. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating eager faces. I adjusted my crisp white uniform, felt the comforting weight of my stethoscope, a symbol I'd earned, that no one could take from me. A young woman nervously raised her hand. "Miss Sanders? How do you handle people who look down on you, who don't think you're good enough?" The room fell silent. I smiled softly, thinking of the girl I used to be, the one who ironed her gown with such hope. By remembering they can't reach you anymore, I said quietly. Their opinions aren't mirrors. They're reflections of their own limitations, not yours. You don't have to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's narrow view. Several heads nodded. The young woman smiled. After the session, I returned to my small office. On my desk in a simple frame was a photograph. Me in my graduation gown. Not the ruined one. A new one I'd bought for myself. I'd driven back to the university on a quiet Saturday, put on the gown, and asked a stranger to take my picture. In the photo, I'm smiling. Really smiling. There's no one else in the frame. Just me.
Proud.
Whole.
Free.
I picked up the frame and felt that familiar peace settle over me. They took my gown, but they couldn't take my grace. They couldn't take the part of me that refused to stay small. Real worth doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need validation from people who never learned how to give it. It just needs you to finally see it yourself. I set the photo back on my desk, next to a small potted succulent. The plant was thriving, its leaves reaching toward the window light. My phone buzzed, a text from Ruby, a colleague who'd become a real friend. Coffee after shift. I smiled and typed back. Absolutely. Because this was my life now. Simple. Quiet.
Mine.
No more waiting to be seen. No more begging to belong. Just me, choosing myself, every single day. And somehow, that was everything. And to anyone watching who has been dismissed, humiliated, or overlooked by those who should have loved them, your worth isn't measured by their approval. Hold on to yourself, protect your dignity, and never let anyone convince you that you don't belong. Thank you for listening to my story, and if you enjoyed it, click the subscribe button.